The unthinkable just happened. A fan has officially filed a lawsuit against the Indiana Fever, claiming the franchise has completely destroyed Caitlin Clark's career. That's right. Not another media rumor, not an internet debate. An actual legal case has now been pushed into the spotlight. And the timing could not be more explosive. Because while Clark's popularity has skyrocketed the WNBA to levels never seen before, the pressure, the physical toll, and the sheer expectations around her have been unlike anything we've ever witnessed in women's basketball. But here's the question everyone's asking. Did the Indiana Fever fail to protect Caitlin Clark? Or is this lawsuit just another attention grab in a season full of hot takes and headlines? In this video, we're breaking it all down. What exactly is in this lawsuit? Why the fan claims the Fever ruined Caitlin's career? How the team, the league, and even players around the WNBA are reacting. And most importantly, what this means for Caitlin Clark's future, both on and off the court. Because make no mistake, this is bigger than basketball. Caitlin Clark isn't just another rookie. She's the face of the WNBA's future. And if one lawsuit gains traction, it could open the floodgates for bigger changes, lawsuits, and even how franchises handle their star players going forward. So buckle up. This story is about to shake the basketball world, and you need to know every detail. To understand how we even got to this point, we need to rewind. Caitlin Clark entered the WNBA as the most hyped prospect ever. We're talking about sold-out arenas, record-breaking TV ratings, sponsorship deals, and a media circus following her every step. From day one, she wasn't just a player. She was the ticket, the headline, and the hope of the league. But the Indiana Fever? They weren't exactly built for this moment. Coming off years of struggles, the team suddenly had the biggest star in the sport dropped onto their roster. Instead of building a protective environment around her, Clark was thrown into the fire. She faced brutal matchups against physical veterans, constant double teams, and an intensity level that most rookies never experience so quickly. Add to that, the Fever's coaching staff and rotations have been criticized for overplaying her minutes, not giving her enough recovery time, and, according to the lawsuit, not properly protecting her from targeted physical aggression by opponents. The fan behind the lawsuit, who identifies as a lifelong Indiana basketball supporter, claims that the Fever essentially used Caitlin Clark as a business asset, rather than a player whose health and long-term career needed to be preserved. The suit specifically highlights excessive minutes played without proper load management, lack of physical protection from hard fouls, and repeated targeting by defenders. Failure to develop a system that balanced her workload with the team's growth, and ultimately creating an environment where she risked serious injury far too often. Now, whether or not these claims hold up in court is one thing, but from a fan perspective, you can see where the frustration comes from. People aren't just watching Caitlin Clark, they've invested emotionally and financially in her journey. And when she struggles, gets knocked around, or looks exhausted, fans feel like the franchise is failing the player who gave the league its biggest spark in decades. This lawsuit is basically saying you had a generational star, and instead of protecting her, you exploited her. And that's a strong accusation. So what does this lawsuit actually say? The filing, made public earlier this week, accuses the Indiana Fever of gross negligence in their handling of Caitlin Clark's rookie season. The fan claims that the franchise prioritized ticket sales, merchandise, and media attention over the physical well-being of their star player. One section of the lawsuit even points out that Clark was averaging minutes on par with veteran MVP candidates in the league, despite being a rookie adjusting to the WNBA's physicality. The fan argues that this workload increased the risk of long-term injuries and shortened career span. Another key point is the lack of on-court protection. Opponents knew that Clark was the offensive engine of the Fever, and they played her physically. Multiple times this season, viral clips showed her being shoved, hacked, or blindsided without consistent foul calls. The lawsuit suggests the Fever should have stepped in, either by lobbying the league more aggressively for fair officiating or by building a roster that physically protected her from relentless targeting. The fan also alleges emotional and reputational damage. claiming that by allowing Clark to struggle so visibly, the franchise tarnished her early narrative as a transcendent star. Instead of dominating headlines with wins and highlights, she was too often framed as a player who couldn't carry her team alone. Here's the kicker. The lawsuit doesn't just seek damages from the Fever. It also calls for a formal WNBA investigation into how franchises handle rookies, star players, and player safety. If that request gains traction, this could go beyond Indiana. It could spark league-wide reforms. Of course, many legal experts believe this lawsuit faces an uphill battle. Fans don't typically win cases like this because they're not directly impacted in the way a player would be. But make no mistake, the symbolism is massive. This isn't just about whether one fan can sue a team. It's about whether the WNBA as a whole is protecting the very stars who are bringing the league unprecedented attention. Now, let's talk about the fallout, because the reactions have been wild. On social media, fans are divided. Some are calling this lawsuit ridiculous and clout-chasing, arguing that injuries and struggles are part of any rookie season. Others, though, are praising the fan for speaking out, saying it reflects what thousands of people have been thinking. Caitlin Clark deserves better support. From the Fever's side, the team has already released a brief statement denying any wrongdoing. They emphasize their commitment to Caitlin's health and success, and labeled the lawsuit as without merit. But behind closed doors, you can bet the franchise is scrambling. The last thing they need is more negative headlines when they're supposed to be building around Clark as the future. Other WNBA players and analysts have also chimed in. Some veterans have pushed back, saying the physical play Clark faces is no different from what they went through in their own rookie seasons. Others, though, have acknowledged that the spotlight on Clark has created a unique pressure cooker, one that the Fever maybe weren't fully prepared to handle. What's really interesting is how NBA players have reacted. A few stars have tweeted in support of Clark, saying the league needs to do more to protect its biggest draw. When NBA voices enter the conversation, it only amplifies the noise, because suddenly the WNBA's issues are in front of a much bigger audience. At the end of the day, this lawsuit is less about the court of law and more about the court of public opinion. And in that arena, the Fever are already on the defensive. So what does this all mean for Caitlin Clark's future? In the short term, the lawsuit doesn't change her day-to-day. She's still playing, still competing, and still carrying the weight of being the WNBA's most recognizable star. But the long-term implications? Those could be huge. If the lawsuit gains any momentum, even just in the media, it forces the Fever and the league to rethink how they're handling Clark. Expect more conversations about load management, about how many minutes she plays, and about whether the team needs to surround her with tougher, more physical teammates to take some of the pressure off. It also raises bigger questions about the WNBA's growth strategy. You can't market one player as the face of everything without making sure that player is supported and protected. The NBA learned this with stars like LeBron and Steph. The WNBA is learning it in real time with Caitlin Clark. For Caitlin personally, this lawsuit may feel uncomfortable. Nobody wants to see their name dragged into legal drama, but in some ways, it's also a signal of just how impactful she's already been. Most rookies don't inspire lawsuits. Caitlin Clark does, because she's not just a rookie, she's a movement. And that's why this story matters. Whether the lawsuit succeeds or fails, it has already put pressure on the Fever, on the WNBA, and on everyone watching to ask, are we doing enough to protect Caitlin Clark, and by extension, the future of women's basketball? Because one thing is clear, Caitlin Clark isn't going anywhere. She's too talented, too driven, and too important. But how the league handles her now could determine whether she becomes a legend with a decade-long career or another what could have been. If you love this breakdown, smash that like button, drop a comment to tell us if you agree with the fan or not.